Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Sijbrandij. I'm a co-founder and CEO at GitLab, and this is the AMA, Ask Me Anything, as a public live stream. And Hannah, thanks for the first question. You want to verbalize it?
Sure. So I think it's pretty obvious that you're excited about the power of AI. I was
Yay.
wondering if there's any moment you had that was kind of like the moment that was your aha moment, that you knew it was a game changer for GitLab, and also if there's areas outside of GitLab where you feel like it's exciting.
Um, a few, I think for me, a few pivotal moments for AI. I think when OpenAI succeeded to play League of Legends, that was a big moment because that's such a intricate game with so many trade-offs that I was really impressed they could do that. Then another aha moment was the trades knowledge worker artist inversion. Kind of a couple of years ago, kind of consensus as I understood it in AI was, well, first AI will do the the trades, the jobs that robots can do. It will be maybe it will do plumbing or something like that. And or welding or stuff like that. And then it will come for the knowledge workers, kind of using an office suite. And then the last thing it will come for is the artists. Artists are that's a so innately human trait that the AI will have a tough time with that. And then the AI came, and it was exactly the other way around. Like the pictures you can generate with Midjourney are just amazing. And then the knowledge work, like every office package is getting an assistant and everything else. And then the trades are very, very far from being replaced right now. So that was just like, hey, we don't understand this at all. We had all the wrong intuitions about this. I think November of not last year, but the year before, ChatGPT was a big moment. And then code suggestion generation, like the ability of AI for you to write a comment and the ability of AI to generate the code. That was just magical seeing that happen with GPT-3, GPT-4. That was mind blowing. So those were moments that stand out for me. Any you want to share any? We can also move to the next question.
I would say I was skeptical of it at first, but I would say what first started to convince me there was I think an engineering manager at GitLab posted it. There was a thing where you could give OpenAI access to your public GitLab contributions, and then it would generate like, here's what I did this year, and I did it. And for me, it articulated business impacts of what I did, some usage metrics. It was amazing. It was like it. I struggle to think back for my performance review, right, of a year of, well, what did I accomplish? And I used that tool, and it did a better job than I could have. So I think that was my aha moment personally.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it was
We should
cool.
add that as a feature in GitLab. Write your write your self evaluation.
Yeah, that's right.
Many of our users are working at an enterprise where they have to probably write something like that.
I'll try to come back and I'll dig it out and put it in the agenda here because it seems like people in the chat are interested. So I'll find it.
That's great. Yeah, please share it. And there's 178 people here, so I hope that someone will pick it up. Um, Slack channel self evaluation or something like that. We're gonna coordinate this.
All right.
Cool. Or AI evaluation, I guess that this is. Cool. Because someone type the AI evaluation Slack channel in the agenda, and then we go to Victor.
Yeah, as many of us, me included, have never been to contributes or summits, I wanted to ask you if you have any recommendations for the maximum number of sessions someone should lead.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's unlimited, so the more the better. Of course, you can lead only one session at a time, so you're constrained by the total number, which is like think depending on which part of the company you work at is like 6 or 8. But 6, no, it's 3. No, we do more sessions per thing. So it's probably closer to 10 or something like that. So you do more than 10, it might get hard scheduling wise. But when you're below that, that's fine and totally fine to organize more. More is better. We're still short. So yeah, encourage people to sign up for multiple ones, and don't be afraid of doing too much or not giving other people the chance. We're still short sessions, so you're not imposing on anyone, and people can show up as they please.
Yeah, I'm really interested in knitting one, actually. I
A
never
knitting
did
one,
that
that's
before.
amazing.
But yeah, I don't know who wrote it up, but thanks for them.
Yeah, and also you're not really hogging the microphone. It's not like there's a line of questions and you ask 10 questions in a row. You're just gonna do a short introduction of 2 minutes and a short summary at the end. The content is like what people join and bring to the table. So it's you're not imposing on anyone at all. You're just facilitating. So that's only good.
Thank you. That was my summit related question.
Awesome. Christopher.
Hey, Sid. Another AI question for you. I've been doing a lot of research on AI, and because the fundamental input is the amount of data that you have, the way that I've been thinking about it is it seems like the market will eventually consolidate on a couple of really, really, really big vendors. So what I mean by that is like a company like Google that's regularly scraping off all of the data from the internet for its search, that has a structural advantage over other companies. So the way that I'm sort of looking at it is there will be some large general models, and then there will also be niche players for a specific market segment. So what I mean by that is like weather models or financial models or like traffic models. But I was curious as to the way that you are seeing this evolve. And the second part of this question is, if I'm right that there will eventually be a bunch of general models that have a predominant market share, then one of the things I'm sort of thinking about is all of these other, like every company in our space right now, they have their own AI type of functionality. Then won't all these companies just be like partnering with like the same general models? Anyway, that's a multi-part question, but I'm curious as to your take.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Thanks for asking that. There's we're at GitLab, we're doing different things. We're using external providers like Google and Anthropic, typically for the big LLMs. We have some of our own models. I think Suggested Reviewers is using our own model. And then we're also always looking at kind of open source models that we can kind of run ourselves or we can run on our cloud, but that we kind of have the weights of the model ourselves, and we pick the best of that. I do think you're right that there's probably going to be only a few really big LLMs. The founder of Anthropic said on a podcast that I saw on YouTube that in the future a training run might be $10 billion to train like GPT-6 or something like that. So that seems like something where one company does it and it doesn't make sense for 100 companies to do it, or maybe even 10 companies. So you get this natural consolidation. You also hinted at like the ability to scrape data. Like the more data you have, the better you can make the model. I think the scraping is something that a lot of companies can relatively do. There's things like Common Crawl that help with that. I think one interesting thing is going to be paying for data. OpenAI is reported in the press as approaching a lot of publishers and sites like Reddit to kind of use their data. And I think that's going to be interesting. Twitter has a model trained on Twitter data and maybe even with RAG access to Twitter data. Like the access to data is going to be a big thing. And it's hard to predict whether the training or the data is going to be more important or how those relate. And then apart from like the OpenAI, Google, and Anthropics of this world, who seem like the leading LLM players, I think there's also room for open source, Mistral, Llama, things like that. Being also because they get a lot of contributions in the form of fine tuning and other things. So I think there's apart from the big proprietary ones, there's also probably a few big open source ones. And then, yeah, also all the specialized models and what is it? Mix of experts, MOE, where you have different AI models collaborate to come to a conclusion. It's all going to be very interesting. Does that answer your question? Anything you want to add?
If it's all right, I'd like to just ask a follow-up question on something you said.
For sure.
Yeah, help me to understand open source models. Like for me, if I'm a business, I want some sort of thing that I can give user input, and then it gives me some sort of thing that I can use at work, or like, it saves me time somehow, right? If I go into GitHub and I find like these open source models, then that's a bunch of source code. How do you actually translate an open source model to solve a business challenge? Like, wouldn't you need to give it data and then to create like some sort of service that's running it so that you can use it for your business? Like, I don't understand open source models.
Thanks for that. I'll just screen share. Maybe that helps. Maybe that doesn't help. This is a product called LM Studio. And you can pick the model. I chose the Mistral open source LLM. I think it's a 7 billion parameter model. It might have kind of reduced accuracy. So instead of like a 72-bit floating point, this might be smaller. It probably says here, and it's only 4 gigabytes on disk. So I assume it might even be 4 bits, but who knows? Q4 quantization. I don't know. Someone's going to chime in who actually understands this. But I'm able to have a conversation with this model. I asked it to summarize an article I read on Hacker News, and it's quite potent. So that's something you can only do with an open source model, because I can download the weights. And the weights you typically download from Hugging Face, and you can look at what's being used by other people and just say, okay, download the weights of that model. And then there's a couple of advantages. There's like a privacy advantage, like my query never left my computer. It's very confidential. There's a pricing advantage. We don't have to pay anybody else. You can run it yourself. And then typically the running costs hopefully are lower. Or in my case, like I have an M1 Apple laptop, it was very speedy. Maybe I should just show how fast it is. Reload model. That's how fast it loaded, which is very fast as far as I'm concerned. And then what should I say in GitLab? That's a pretty hard question, but it's more about how fast it responds than, well, it's got some pretty good suggestions. And I think that the token speed for kind of this is going to be even faster on the M3 laptops and everything else, but I think it's pretty cool. You can run these already.
So it's fundamentally the business add value for like ChatGPT and Anthropic is that they're hosting it and giving you like the cloud SaaS version. That's like the business, basically.
You already have a bunch of hosts of these open source models. Like Mistral has an open source model. And if you look at kind of the pricing, there's kind of a race to the bottom for these open source models. I think where the OpenAIs and Google Gemini and Anthropic are going to have a business is because they're probably ahead of the open source models, because the open source models they earn less money. So they're going to be behind in training runs and everything else. But so far they've caught up pretty quickly with the state of the art. So it's interesting to see, also because people do great jobs fine-tuning them and everything else. But right now the open source models are funded by, I don't know, Facebook P&L and VC money. Like it's harder to make a sustainable business. So my anticipation is the proprietary models will have more money for buying data and the training runs, and they're going to keep being ahead. But how much ahead is a big question. And so far they've closed a lot of the gap that was there in the beginning.
Thank you, Sid.
Anybody wants to chime in? There's lots of people chiming in. I don't want to force people.
I did one specific mention that actually right now domain-specific fine-tuned models are getting more and more traction. So while the big models, the general models that you see are available for the general public, even as GitLab uses more fine-tuned models, here I linked one that was fine-tuned specifically for Flux CD and its ecosystem that GitLab integrates with, for example. And that's, I think for companies like GitLab, these fine-tuned models can be sometimes be even more interesting than general models, because they have much higher quality answers in their domain than general models can provide.
Anybody else who wants to chime in?
I said I just heard the ChatGPT actually getting lazier. Do you have any comment on that? So about AI model, when they train this before they give you some explanation, the logic, everything. Right now they're just getting like short answers instead of give big answers. So
yeah, I don't have insight into OpenAI, but what I suspect is they had a lot of demand for their product, and the world is kind of constrained in GPU capacity right now.
Yeah.
Plus, there's publications out there that say the inference costs for these models are very substantial. So they might have focused for a while to make the model more efficient. For example, by kind of giving them a shorter time for inference, doing fewer loops on the inference, quantization, kind of partial. There's lots of techniques that are too smart for me to explain because I don't understand them, but there's a lot you can do. And I assume that OpenAI, the demand has been incredible, that they had to deploy that in order to serve all the demand that was out there. And it led to slightly worse results. But I've also the complaints kind of stopped. So I think they just moved really fast. They had a bit of downgrading results, but they were able to serve everyone. And then in the weeks after, they recouped a lot of the quality. That's my, as an outsider, that's what I guess would have happened, but I have no special insight.
Thank you, Sam.
Anybody else? Cool. Will, last question of the public stream.
Thanks. Just a simple one. I know that in the past, it was a thing, but I was wondering if with the increase in our company size, if you still have availability for coffee chats these days, or if that's no longer a thing.
It is a thing again, just like the CEO Shadow program. Because of my sickness last year, I was limited in time and I didn't do them. But the Shadow program started kind of 2 weeks ago, and coffee chats are a thing again. So feel free to ask Jeannie to schedule a coffee chat with me. Happy to do that. You don't have to. Can just be curiosity. Love to meet new people in the company.
That's awesome to hear. Thanks for that.